Welcome to Recurring Insight. It's the beginning of your upkeep, so it's time for another episode. I'm your host, Michael, and today we'll be looking at 3 Jeskai Storm decks. Apex of the Tide by Amaterasu, Kaikar Underworld Storm by Megorian, and To Infinity and Beyond by Flash and Dreddy. I'm really excited about this episode, as my Kaikar deck is one of my favorites. Anyways, to start, we're going to go over the combos used in the decks, as the combos warp the entire deck around them. All of the decks run Underworld Breach lines, as it's one of the strongest lines in Jeskai colors. Lion's Eye Diamond fuels Wheel of Fortune or Windfall, and Brain Freeze is fueled by LED and Lotus Petal. There are other supporting cards being run, and I'll point them out as we go through them. To Infinity and Beyond also runs Isochron Scepter and Dramatic Reversal to generate infinite mana. Apex of the Tide also runs Dockside Extortionist lines, as it combos with Vadrak or Lord Drakis and a bounce spell, the best of which is Snap as you get to untap 2 lands. You start with Dockside generating 5 treasures. Then, mutate Vadrak onto Dockside. If Snap is not already in your graveyard, you may cast it targeting the pile. Snap returns Dockside and Vadrak to your hand, and you can restart the loop, except you will now be casting it via Vadrak's ability rather than from your hand if you were not already doing so before. You can perform similar loops with High Tide, Snap, and Ornithopter, Cloud of Fairies, or Palinchron. Apex of the Tide also runs Baron, Master Wizard, which combos with Dockside Extortionist. Dockside's ETB generates 6 treasures. Sacrifice 3 treasures to use Baron's ability to return Dockside to your hand, then recast Dockside and continue the loop. Finally, Vadrak combos with Twin Flame and Dockside Extortionist and any bounce spell or Cloud of Fairies with Snap. Let's look at the Dockside line as an example. Cast Dockside, generating 5 treasures. Cast Twin Flame to create a copy of Dockside. Mutate Vadrak under Dockside using the mutate trigger to cast Twin Flame, creating a copy of the pile, generating an additional 5 treasures. Cast Chain of Vapor targeting the real Slim Shady to return it to your hand. Mutate Vadrak under the copied pile, generating 2 mutate triggers. Stack the triggers so Twin Flame creates a new copy of the pile, and return Vadrak to your hand with Chain of Vapor. You're now free to repeat this to generate unbounded mana and cast of any spell in your graveyard that is 3 CMC or less. I hate Mutate. It may be because I don't regularly play the deck, but this combo feels very clunky to the point where I'm not sure if Twin Flame is worth the slot. Both Kaikar Underworld Storm and To Infinity and Beyond run a combo involving Sensei's Divining Top, Elsha of the Infinite, and a Cost Reducer. However, in Kaikar serves as a replacement for the Cost Reducer, and that's the line we'll be looking at. Starting with Kaikar, Elsha, and Sensei's Divining Top on the field, activate Sensei's Divining Top to draw a card. Then cast Sensei's Divining Top from the top of your library, triggering Kaikar. You can then repeat this by sacrificing the Spirit for red mana. Elsha uses Cost Reducers, which bypasses the need to generate and sacrifice spirits. You can now draw your library. I didn't want to spend that much time on the combos, but the Vadrak combos are fairly complicated, and you don't see them too often. Anyways, let's move on to the cards that are included in all of the lists. Each deck runs the best removal spells available in Jeskai. They also run the best interaction in American colors, with the exception of Mana Drain and Dovin's Veto, but we'll get to that later. For draw spells, they run the best cantrips, wheels, and draw engines Blue has to offer. They also run the 1-mana tutors in white, red, and blue. Underworld Breach and Brain Freeze, like previously mentioned, make appearances in all 3 decks for combo purposes. As the decks lack green, there's going to be a lot of overlap and ramp, running the best artifacts and, of course, the grossly powerful Goblin Pirate himself. Looking at the differences in the decks, you'll see that almost all the differences are due to the differences in combos. As a result, Kaikar and Elsha will be more similar, and Vadrak is going to be the outlier. This difference is immediately apparent in the removal. Vadrak has a heavy emphasis on bounce spells, including even unusual ones like Aether Spellbomb, Curfew, and Snapback. It also runs Dack Fayden, which serves as a win condition with unbounded bounce spells. I'm not sure I agree with Aether Spellbomb, even to draw your deck with Savine's Reclamation and unbounded spellcasts. Kaikar and Elsha both use more actual removal, with Kaikar tending to veer towards more mana-intensive removal like Cyclonic Rift, Heliod's Intervention, and Vandal Blast, due to it being able to generate large amounts of mana with the spirits. Elsha is going to run more board wipes, as it doesn't have dependence on small creatures like Vadrak or Kaikar, including both Pyroclasm and Rolling Earthquake. It also has a heavy focus on versatility, running Abrade, Wear and Tear, and Unsubstantiate. The stack interaction is especially interesting, as there's a distinct suite of counterspells that are universally the best, so any deviation is telling. Apex of the Tide notably runs Force of Negation, which is unexpected. Vadrak can't win at instant speed, nor can it run ad nauseum. It's also not running Dovin's Veto, Pyroblast, or Red Elemental Blast, which are auto-includes. Unsubstantiate is great in this deck as it doubles as a bounce spell. Kaikar Underworld Storm is more dependent on its commander, which is also cheaper than the other 2 decks, so it runs Fierce Guardianship and Deflecting Swat. It's strange that only Kaikar runs Dispel, as it's one of the auto-include counterspells. I'm still not sold on Force of Negation, but Narset's Reversal is a solid card that enables Twister loops. Elsha is the only deck running Dovin's Veto, but it's also the only deck that cut Mana Drain, which I disagree with. There are some cards that are too good to cut. It's clear that the deck is trying to end the game quickly with the inclusion of Miscast and Spell Pierce, but the deck also runs Unsubstantiate and Dovin's Veto, so it's not like 2 mana is too much for a counterspell. It's curious that Deflecting Swat made the cut, while Fierce Guardianship didn't. It speaks to the deck being more focused on protecting its own game plan rather than stopping its opponents. Looking at card advantage and selection, we're going to see that Vadrok overwhelms Kykar and Elsha. There's a lot to unpack here. Aether Spellbomb with Sevinne's Reclamation and Dack Fayden are both combo finisher, but Manifold Insights is sort of a meh card. It's okay, but it's close to the bottom of the playability spectrum. Frantic Search is an auto-include in Storm builds below 4 colors, especially in a deck running High Tide. There's really no reason not to run Seagate Restoration below 4 colors, and Spectral Sailor serves as a mutate target. I'm not a huge fan of Teferi, Master of Time outside of Mono Blue and Stax decks, but Time Spiral, like Frantic Search, is great in store builds, but even better when you're on High Tide. I'm not sold on Valakut Exploration either. Kykar runs a much more conservative package of card draw. It runs Elsha, which is part of a combo with Sensei's Divining Top, and Recurring Insight, so this deck gets a gold star and is officially the first deck on Recurring Insight to actually run Recurring Insight. Kykar can generate an insane amount of mana via Spirits, so it takes advantage of that with the higher CMC spells, as well as Skull Clamp. I am surprised that Time Spiral isn't being run, considering it's on High Tide. Elsha, having a card advantage engine in the command zone, runs the fewest card draw spells. Notably, it does run Serum Visions, which rarely sees play due to her synergies with the top of the deck. One area non-black decks tend to struggle with are the tutors. Apex of the Tide makes a valiant effort to make up for it by including Imperial Recruiter and Recruiter of the Guard to get Dockside Extortionist. It also runs Intuition, which finds Underworld Breach, Sevinne's Reclamation, and LED to assemble a win. The most notable thing about Kykar is that it doesn't run Intuition. I mean, it's an Underworld Breach deck, and it's not running Intuition. Doesn't make sense to me. While Apex of the Tide runs tutors for Dockside, Elsha runs tutors for Sensei's Divining Top and cost reducers, including Reshape and Transmute Artifact. The decks run a bare amount of stacks. Apex of the Tide runs Grand Abolisher to aid in using Dack Fayden as a win con, Kykar Underworld Storm runs Narset Parter of Veils, and To Infinity and Beyond runs Curse Totem as it uses no creature activated abilities. For non-black decks, they run a surprising amount of recursion. I'm confused by Dreadhorde Arcanist, but I suppose it could serve as a value engine by recasting cantrips, or it could jumpstart the combo. It's also a mutate target. Lord Drakis is part of the combo, and Sevinne's Reclamation is part of an Intuition pile and can serve as a combo finisher with Aether Spellbomb. Kykar runs Hall of Heliod's Generosity to recur Underworld Breach, but for some inexplicable reason doesn't run Sevinne's Reclamation. This is fine, I'm fine. Elsha focuses on recurring Sensei's Divining Top and Underworld Breach. Now we're on to the miscellaneous cards, or cards that don't fit into one of the previous sections. Vadrok runs Burning Inquiry, which has little use outside of the combo turn, and even then, there are better options. It also runs Cloud of Fairies, Ornithopter, and Palinchron as mutate targets. Twin Flame is a part of a combo, but I'm not sure I agree with Hedron Crab. It fills up the graveyard and serves as a mutate target, however I don't think it's worth a slot. Kykar runs Aetherflux Reservoir, Angel's Grace, Burning Inquiry, False Dawn, and Impact Tremors. I understand why the cards are being run. Aetherflux serves as a finisher, and Angel's Grace lets you safely mill at the table with Wheel of Fortune and Windfall. Burning Inquiry combos with Underworld Breach without needing another mana source, as long as Kykar is on the field. False Dawn lets you use Seething Song as a replacement for Lion's Eye Diamond when Kykar is on the field, and Impact Tremors can serve as a finisher. However, just because I understand why they're in here, doesn't mean I agree with them being in here. I don't believe the cards are efficient enough to be worth slots. Aetherflux is dated, Angel's Grace is unnecessary when Brain Freeze exists, False Dawn synergy with Seething Song isn't enough, and Impact Tremors is unnecessary considering Twister Loops, Brain Freeze, and Grapeshot are a thing. Not that I agree with Grapeshot either. Elsha runs Isochron Scepter for Dramatic Scepter as well as Phantasmal Image to abuse Dockside or one of our opponent's creatures. Moving on to the ramp, there's less overlap than I expected. Apex of the Tide contains a relatively conservative package of ramp, considering they have the balls to only run 27 lands, well, 28 with Seagate Restoration, but Moxfield counts it as a sorcery, I think. It's also not running Smothering Tithe, which I haven't seen excluded from a white deck in a fat minute. Kykar picks up the pace but excludes Grim Monolith and Mox Opal, which is surprising considering it runs 17 artifacts more than Vadrok. I agree with cutting Mox Opal because I was running a similar amount of artifacts and it always underperformed for me. I'm not a huge fan of High Tide and anything running more than 2 colors, and Vadrok only gets a pass because of the combos. I don't agree with the Seething Song either. Kykar can already generate a lot of red mana, and the synergy with False Dawn isn't worth it in my eyes. Elsha runs a very high density of ramp, notably including cost reducers that really don't see play anywhere else. One card that I want to point out is Jeweled Amulet. I think it's an underrated card that is seeing a lot of play in fast decks. I'm not going to go over the full mana bases, but I'm going to showcase the notable includes and excludes. Prismatic Vista rarely sees play outside of monocolor and two-color decks, and I haven't seen a Triome in any other decks, but they both serve the same purpose, making sure you get the islands necessary for High Tide to be beneficial. This is why I'm not a fan of High Tide in 3+ color decks. You have to make sacrifices in your mana base. Vadrak also excludes several popular lands to make room for more islands. Kykar has a fairly standard mana base, but it does include Hull of Heliod's Generosity, as previously mentioned. Like Vadrak, Kykar also excludes Tarnished Citadel. Finally, Elsha runs Academy runes, Hull of Heliod's Generosity, and Spire of Industry. I've already talked about the two recursion lands, but Spire of Industry makes sense considering Elsha's artifact density. It is strange that neither Sacred Foundry nor Tarnished Citadel are being run, as Elsha doesn't even have to accommodate High Tide. In this video, we looked at 3 decks and how the combos warp the rest of their deck around them. Credit goes to Amaterasu, Megorian, and Flash Andretti for the lists, and Scryfall for the images. My personal favorite list was Apex of the Tide because it's such an unusual list. It also plays much smoother than I first expected it to. You can let me know which one was your favorite in the comments. The links to the lists, the spreadsheet containing the raw data, and my personal Kykar list are in the description. I'm also adding the link to the Instagram account for recurring insight. It's basically just a meme account, but there will sometimes be announcements. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch. If you enjoyed it, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. I'm your host, Michael, and I'll see you at the beginning of the next upkeep for another episode.